everyone, welcome. I'm Vicki Vollweiler from College Financial Prep, and tonight we're going to be talking about how to save money on the cost of college. We're also going to be talking about the new FAFSA as a result of the FAFSA Simplification Act. I know that sounds very exciting. So a little bit about College Financial Prep. It all started with my own story. I had been a divorce coach and I was helping people specifically with regard to their personal finances. And then clients started to ask me, well, how are they going to be able to afford the cost of college? And since my own kids were starting to get older, yeah, this is an important topic. Saving money on the cost of college is no joke. Certainly not something like, not getting a latte every day. Ideally, we're going to be able to send our kids to college, take on minimal debt, maximize our savings, minimize costs, and that's the goal, to help families save money. So as Ben Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we're going to start talking about the information you need to plan for college costs. So a little bit about the college timeline, certainly as it relates to finances. Birth to age 18, obviously save as much as you can for college. It's not always doable. Life happens. I understand that, but try to save as much as you can. Some people think, well, if we don't have anything, we'll qualify for more financial aid. And depending on the school, it just doesn't always work like that. 9th, 10th grade, start planning for college costs, try saving even a little more, college is coming up soon. And start thinking about what your child's interests are, possible majors, and possible types of colleges that you want to consider and you want your child to consider. 11th and 12th grade is when the bigger things start happening, and we're going to get into that right now. So it's from the end of junior year through senior year in high school. We're focusing on getting ready for not only preparing for college admittance, but also preparing for how to pay for college. So typically I would recommend even before summertime, after 11th grade, I'd certainly say by second semester of 11th grade, is when college planning happens, putting together the ideal college list, thinking about how much you've saved up, what's going to be affordable in terms of college, and, also the Common App and essays. And that should be happening certainly by summer, right after 11th grade. But fall of senior year is when you're going to be filling out the FAFSA application. That's the free application for federal student aid. Also, some colleges require what's called the CSS profile, and that is administered by the College Board, which, if you remember AP exams or SAT tests, College Board is the same organization that administers those exams. So winter is the time when colleges ask for verification, which means they can ask for proof of any of the information that you submit. Also, this is the time when the kids start receiving their acceptance letters, and those acceptance letters will tell you if the colleges are going to award merit scholarship money. During winter, the kids should also be looking for private scholarships. And here's a link to some scholarship search sites on my website at collegefinancialprep.com/scholarships. During spring of senior year, this is when the colleges will tell the students what the total cost of attendance is going to be at the college. It'll include information about the cost of tuition, cost of room and board, how much they've been awarded in grants and scholarship money, how much, if the student gets work study programs. They may talk about student loans if they're needed, and also, that bottom line total cost of attendance. So it's an important document. My opinion, no decisions should be made without knowing what your total cost is going to be. And then typically May 1st is college decision day. And while I say typically May 1st, this year that we're in right now, there are delays happening as a result of this FAFSA Simplification Act. It's a crazy year. So right now I've started to see some of the schools pushing it back to to at least May 15th because of all the delays that have been happening this year due to FAFSA. And then that's going to bring us back to summer. And now we're going to be talking about summer after the high schoolers have graduated. Right now, it's a good time to file appeals if there's been any changes due to special circumstances. And it's also the time to think about the student loan acquisitions. So just so you know, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, for every year that the students are in college and graduate school, they should be filing those financial aid forms. You know, certainly FAFSA every single year. It's not just you do it one time and you're done. Every single year. And it's for both college and graduate school. So let's talk about the new FAFSA Simplification Act and the changes that are happening so you're aware of them. So right before we get into that, why should everyone submit FAFSA? Some people think we earn too much money. We're not going to qualify for anything. Why should I bother? Well, I advise everyone to do it. Yes, you apply for need-based aid, but if you're going to need student loans, if your child is going to need a student loan, the lowest cost interest rates are applied for through FAFSA. You need to fill out the FAFSA application for your child to get a student loan. Also, you use FAFSA to apply for work-study programs. And then sometimes, you know, a household financial circumstances can change. Somebody can lose a job or get ill or something that causes, you know, havoc with your finances. And as long as you already have FAFSA on file with the school, you can request a review, and it's possible for them to give you additional funding to help pay for college. So now, you know, what is FAFSA? It's an application from the government that can help you get need-based aid for college. You know, in addition to everything else we spoke about with the student loans and whatnot. It asks you for information about both the students and the family's finances. It requires information from your tax return. They want your bank account balances, your investments. They also ask about if you own a business and the value of your business. You can list up to 20 colleges on the FAFSA application. This is new. It used to be only 10. And then once the form is submitted, it gets reviewed first by the federal government. And there they'll determine if a household qualifies for the Pell Grant or work study, or even subsidized loans. Those are all considered need-based aid. And then about a week or two later, after you've already submitted it, then the government will send your FAFSA application to the various colleges that you applied to. And then the colleges will review your application and they may offer you more money. Every school uses a different formula. So there's no set amount that you're going to get. So the new FAFSA, with this FAFSA Simplification Act and the new FAFSA form, it opened December 31st of 2023. And this is for the 2024-2025 school year. There have been quite a few delays. There have been glitches. Anyway, things have now been delayed till March 1st. Before, as I mentioned, the government will send everything to the various colleges. Right now, the government is holding all of it till March 1st. They have not submitted anything yet to the colleges, which is causing this ripple effect with the delays to the various colleges, the colleges then getting back to the students to let them know what their total cost of attendance is going to be, and then the delay with students needing to make that final decision of where they're going to attend next year. So now, what are some of the positive changes as a result of the FAFSA Simplification Act? Well, first, there was what was called EFC, which was Expected Family Contribution, and that's now known as Student Aid Index. Really, that's like a wash. There's no positive or negative from that. It's just a name change. In terms of Pell Grants, they've expanded who qualifies for Pell Grants. So it used to be around $50,000 per year in household income, and now it's about $60,000 a year in household income. But they're going to be using federal poverty tables and looking at the family makeup, the size, the income to determine who qualifies for those Pell Grants. But they have expanded it to make more people eligible, which is a great thing. Also, if grandparents had been contributing financial support to help pay for college, that will no longer be considered anymore and won't possibly jeopardize a student from need-based aid, which is wonderful. So yes, grandparents should be contributing to 529 plans if they can. And now, what are some of the not so great changes as a result to the FAFSA Simplification Act? Well, the student aid index formula is no longer being divided by the number of students in the household that are going to be in college. So it doesn't matter now if you have, it used to be that if you had 2 or more kids in college, you would effectively be given a discount, and assuming that you can afford less for college. Now they are no longer considering that. Also now, small business owners. It used to be that if you have less than 100 employees, you automatically put down that your the value of your business was 0. And that's no longer true either. So small business owners do need to report how much their small businesses are worth. Also, with applicants that have divorced or separated parents, it's changed. It's not solely the custodial parent who now provides information for their student. Now it's going by which parent provides more financial support for the student. That's not necessarily which parent earns more, but which one provides more money towards this for the student's living expenses. So the impact to the CSS profile for all this, well, there's really been nothing. The CSS profile opened, as it always does, on October 1st in the prior year. They were following the same formulas that they always have. So that is good. The CSS profile, we'll get into it a little bit later, but it is a more in-depth review of a household's finances. They dig much deeper than the FAFSA does. So predictions for this year's 12th grade families, because the CSS profile was had opened in October, colleges are going to rely more heavily on the CSS profile information this year. There are delays at the college financial aid offices now with reviewing all of the applications because of the delays with FAFSA. So there are delays with telling students that they're admitted, also because of the delays with FAFSA. And again, delays for prospective students in receiving their financial award letters, and there's going to be less time for families to choose which college they want to ultimately attend. So some takeaways, if you have more than one child in college at the same time now, they're going to assume that you can afford almost twice the amount of money, if you have 2. If you're a small business owner, your total business worth will be taken into account. And there was a lot of fighting going on about this because, people in the Midwest, farmers or small business owners, their land, they've been arguing, rightly so, that they can't just sell their land to pay for college. So that's one of the issues with this. And if you're separated or divorced, due to the rule changes, it makes it even more important, and this is true with everybody, to secure merit scholarships to help pay for college. And ultimately just realize that it is possible for a private university, after merit scholarships and financial aid, it's possible for private universities to cost less than a state college. So let's talk about, the next part, how to reduce the cost of college. But before we can reduce the costs, we have to realize what the costs are. So let's talk about tuition. The costs are tuition, room and board. There are always miscellaneous fees, supplies like computers and books. If your child wants to join a fraternity or sorority, those come with costs. Travel expenses, whether, taking the bus home or flying home, tutoring expenses, and then of course you have all the college application fees, the cost to set up the dorm room, spending money, cell phones, dorm insurance. There's also nowadays tuition insurance. So lots of expenses to consider. So for reducing costs at college financial prep, we utilize what I call the goal system. G, we want to generate a college list. And that's going to happen typically that summer before 12th grade, so during spring of 11th grade into the summer of 12th grade. October 1st of 12th grade is when October 1st is when we're going to start the financial aid forms. That's when the applications typically open. Then usually in March, we're going to start analyzing those financial aid award letters, see where we can request additional funding. We're going to look for more money, whether it's more money from the schools, more money from private scholarships. And then we're going to secure student loans. So that's pretty much the process of saving money on the cost of college. So generating a college list. It's important to consider, how much money you're going to be able to put towards college costs to cover all 4 years for each child, and then for, how many children you have total. Everybody typically considers colleges, you may have heard the terms reach schools, target schools, and safety schools, but I also like to make sure that there are financially friendly schools on that list as well. I don't want a family to be applying only to $80,000 a year schools, and they'll all cost $80,000 a year, and then they just can't afford those schools. Need to make sure it's a balanced list. And let me just go back to that for a second. Some of the work that I do with families is in 11th grade, when we're putting together that college list, we'll project costs in advance, not the list price, but what, your family will actually pay. It is possible to project costs. To know how much financial aid they will be giving. So, how do you find free money? There's merit scholarships and there's need-based aid. So let's talk about these both a little bit. So with merit scholarships, the most merit money typically comes from the colleges themselves. And the colleges will award merit money for a variety of reasons. It's not just for academics. It could be because child is a leading French horn player. It could be because the student wants to enroll in a brand new major at a specific college. It may be because they're applying to a school in a distant geographic region and they're looking to attract students from other places in the country. So lots of reasons for schools to award merit scholarships. And merit scholarships really are discounts to entice students to go attend their school. Need-based aid, you have to complete the financial aid forms. As we mentioned, there's FAFSA. New York State also has TAP. There's CSS profile, and some colleges also have their own institutional financial aid forms. So let's talk about honors programs for a bit. You do not have to have a student who is a 4.0 student or, has a 1600 on the SATs. All tier colleges, most tier colleges have honors programs, and typically they provide a lot of merit scholarship money to entice your child to attend these programs. And they come with lots of great benefits. Usually the students, in addition to merit money, get priority housing, priority registration, extra opportunities working with the faculty, lots of different bonuses to be considered and to check out at each college. So test optional programs and test blind colleges. So why am I bringing this up? Certainly at the test optional colleges, if your student is a good test taker, I encourage you to take the test. If your student gets a good score and you submit the scores, the schools may offer your child merit scholarship money. The schools that are test blind, they're not going to care if you take the tests or not, and that won't impact merit scholarships. So, I can't stress it enough. If you have a good child who's a good test taker, take the tests. You don't need to even send the test to every college, but you can pick and choose where to send it. Let me make sure I'm at the right. Okay, so demonstrating interest. this is something that I usually leave to the college advisors to discuss, but you'll see why I'm bringing this up. As far as demonstrating interest, you apply to, X number of schools, and there are a couple you're really hoping to get in. Make sure you visit the school's website, request information, follow the colleges on social media, meet with the college admissions counselors at local college fairs, and then you may want to follow up with the college admissions counselors that you meet, send emails, with relevant questions, visit the college and take a tour. Try to develop a good rapport with those college admissions counselors, because if you need to ask for more money, you may be more likely to receive it. So need-based aid. Federal need-based aid consists of the following. There are Pell Grants. They're typically up to about, I want to say it's like $7,500 a year. There are work-study programs, and there are also subsidized loans. And those are all considered need-based aid. But I believe I mentioned earlier, but for undergraduates, FAFSA looks at both the students and the parents' income and assets, as well as other factors. So, I started to mention expected family contribution earlier and student aid index. Let's talk a little bit about what these numbers mean and how they're calculated. So the student aid index, it's not actually the amount of money that you'll pay for college, or it could be. It really depends on the specific college. So let's discuss two examples. So School A. School A meets 100% of a household's needs. And for this family, their student aid index says that they can afford $10,000 per year. But the cost of attendance at School A is $70,000. So when you take the cost of attendance of 70 and you subtract the 10,000 that, the family can supposedly afford, there's $60,000 in need. And since School A meets 100% of the household's needs, the student cost is $10,000. But now School B only meets 50% of a household's needs. The family still has the same student aid index of $10,000, and this is a formula that, says that this is what the family should be able to afford. Whether or not the family thinks that they can afford it or not is a completely different story. But School B also costs $70,000 per year. So when you do 70 minus 10, there's still $60,000 in need, but School B only meets 50% of need. So instead of the school, eating the $60,000, this school will only give them $30,000. So if the student wants to go to School B, this student's going to have to pay $10,000 plus the additional $30,000, totaling $40,000. And every school is different, and every school has their own formula. So now let's talk a little bit about work-study programs. Students apply for work-study through FAFSA. They work at an on-campus job. Kids receive a paycheck, and they can use the paycheck for either spending money. They can put it towards tuition if they want, but they don't have to. And it's up to the student to seek a position once they get on campus. Sometimes parents are hesitant for the kids to get a job while they're starting college, but there are, some great benefits. They get work experience for their resume, they learn time management skills, and when the job is quiet, they can do their homework, they can study. I know some students will watch Netflix, all different things. It's much better to work at a job on campus, whether through work study or they just get a job on campus, than it is having to work a job at, say the mall. So now let's talk about other financial aid forms. As we mentioned, there's the CSS profile. In New York State, we also have the TAP form, and some colleges also have their own institutional forms. Typically, the Ivy League schools have their own institutional forms, but some others may as well. With the CSS profile, there's probably a little less than 400 colleges that use the CSS profile to award grants and scholarships. Again, this is a private financial aid application administered by the College Board, as opposed to FAFSA, which is needed by every school in the country. So some All schools require FAFSA. Some schools require both FAFSA and CSS. So now let's talk about CSS profile. It provides a more holistic view of a household's finances. I mean, a really deep dive into your finances. It's very different from FAFSA because it's so much more in depth. But major differences include that it will look at the value of your home, your primary residence, as well as your retirement accounts. FAFSA does not look at those. Now, it is possible to appeal for more money. I'm going to tell you a quick little story of my broken down heating system. So a couple of years ago, went down to the basement. It was flooded. My heating system broke down. Anyway, I had two people come in and give me estimates. I ended up deciding to go with the second person for a number of reasons. Price was only partially it. But anyway, I called the first guy to thank him for coming, but to tell him I was going with the second. And the first thing he said to me was, "Can I give you a lower price?" Just keep in mind, colleges are like businesses. They have seats to fill. It is possible to negotiate with colleges. So, reasons to try to request additional funding, just because perhaps another college came in a little bit less than you. Maybe you just really can't afford it. Maybe there could just be, any reason, no reason to request additional money. And depending on where the school is in terms of filling seats, they may offer you more. And sometimes there are special circumstances that affect your household. Maybe your income has gone down since the tax return that you used on your FAFSA application. Maybe there's been a separation or a divorce or a loss of a spouse. Maybe there's been a loss of a job. Maybe there's a medical illness that's causing a lot of expenses. There may be things happening that it's important to talk to the school about to help lower your costs on the price of college. Now let's talk about student loans a bit. So student loans, in an ideal world, these would be minimized as much as possible. Right now, actually, this number has increased. It's now $1.7 trillion in student loan debt outstanding in the US. 54% of college attendees are taking on debt to help pay for their education. And the average amount of student loan debt per borrower is, 37,000 and change. But for those that take on debt in grad school, I mean, they can have hundreds of thousands of student loan debt. If they're going for law school, medical school, dental school, MBA programs, whatnot, with graduate school, they can take on the full cost of attendance as a student loan. So how much can the students take out in student loans? Through the federal government, students are eligible for either unsubsidized or subsidized student loans. Freshmen only qualify for up to $5,500 a year, and many parents are not aware of this. Sophomores can take out up to $6,500 per year. Juniors and senior years can take out up to $7,500 each year. There's no credit history check for the students. No cosigner is needed. And, if your family qualifies for need-based aid, then your student will be entitled to get a subsidized loan through the federal government. Subsidized loans mean that the interest will not start to accrue till after graduation. If you do not qualify for need-based aid and take out a student loan, those loans will start to accrue as soon as you take out that loan. So if you take out a loan freshman year, it's going to start accruing interest freshman year. So what happens after the student takes out a loan for $5,500? As we said earlier, there could be colleges that cost $80,000. So if the student can only take out $5,500, typically the parents need to help pay for college. The parents can take out federal Parent Plus loans. It's also possible for the student to take out a private student loan, but typically they'll need a parent as a cosigner. It's very, very hard for a student to just qualify for a private loan on their own. And then people ask, well, maybe, my child can apply as an independent on the financial aid forms. And again, the restrictions on that are so tight. Basically the student has to be abandoned or orphaned or something, horrific. And let's just hope that, that doesn't happen to any of our students. Rather, they should not be independent. So planning ahead. Like weight loss, results aren't typical, but yeah, I've had some clients save hundreds of thousands of dollars each. So how did they do it? They applied to the right schools for their situation. It's important to analyze what your situation is, what your goals are, and apply to the right schools. And your child has to be accepted at that school and choose to attend the best one to be able to save maximum amount of money. I mean, it does take strategy. And for each family, that strategy could be different. It depends on the family dynamics and the financials, of course. So depending on your situation, the key is to be strategic. If you're divorced, might want to look for colleges that won't request the other parent's financial information. If finances are limited, it's certainly important to project those costs for each college before submitting applications. And if you're looking to receive merit scholarship, it's important to analyze your students' academic achievements in high school and find the schools that are likely to, to provide those awards that you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about successes and failures. Successes, seriously, comes from planning early. Planning early allows you to be strategic. Those are all the families that have saved the most money. The failures, and I've literally had this happen, I had somebody call me as they were driving to drop their child off at college, saying the bill was due the next day. What can I do to help them? At that point, there's nothing I can do to help them. Seriously, plan ahead. So just remember, I know that, applying to college is a crazy, crazy process, but there's no right or wrong path to college, and there's no right or wrong college. It's up to you to communicate with your family, to discuss goals, values, expectations. Every family is going to be different. Every family has different goals. I've seen too often where they let the child apply to whatever schools the child wanted to apply to. And then they received their total cost of attendance. The child wanted to go to their dream school. The family realized they couldn't afford the dream school. And just everyone was, upset, crying, guilty, felt guilty, all of that stuff at the very end. And it all could have been avoided by discussing expectations and communicating earlier on in the process. Just remember, some families are looking for the lowest cost possible when it comes to college because that's what their finances dictate. Other families want what they perceive as the best school for the child, and they're going to make it work. And others, want to find the best college that comes with the best pricing. So just remember, there's no right or wrong. My advice is share with your children how much you have saved for college, how much you believe they can, you all collectively can afford for college, and try to find schools within that budget. And just remember, regardless wherever your child decides to go to college, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them. It's up to the kids to seek out the opportunities at college. It's not that the opportunities are going to automatically find them. That's true no matter where they go. And just quickly, we'll discuss two situations. The first one, let's suppose a student wants to become a public school teacher. So one student can choose to go to, say a school in the SUNY system, And the other student who also wants to become a public school teacher decides to go out of state, and maybe she goes to an out-of-state university or a private university. But they both want to be public school teachers. Ultimately, they may both take the same licensing exam. They may both teach in the same school, both earning the same salary. Which made more sense to attend a higher cost, have a higher cost college experience, assuming that the private university was a higher cost, or did it make more sense to attend the in-state university? So just something to consider if a child is going for that type of career path. Now, let's consider a student who wants to be, perhaps have a specific field in mind. Maybe this student wants to do medical research. It's possible that their career path could be very different from attending one university versus another. Maybe the potential salary is by attending a more costly university is warranted. It's important to examine what type of employment opportunities there are and career potential, to determine what type of school makes the most sense and if it's worth, and it could be worth it, taking on those student loans. So now that we've discussed college lists, need-based aid, merit scholarships, student loans, and financial aid applications, think about how college financial prep can help you plan for college and save money. We offer a free 15-minute call to discuss your concerns, and you can schedule appointments at collegefinancialprep.com. Just so you know, we should be having some upcoming free webinars, college timeline, important factors to know when planning college visits, evaluating applicants, saving money on the cost of college, and talking about SATs or test prep and undeclared majors.